Hello and welcome to What Moves Us Express,
Or alternatively, what doesn't move us?
a daily podcast throughout this disrupted season
Brought to you from sunny Brighton and
at Nine Elms in London.
So it's Tuesday. What are we in? Third week of confinement, and we've got with us today Liam
Yep, hello.
and Barry from Hitachi. So Barry, hi.
Hi, good afternoon.
How are you doing?
Well as can be expected, I guess, really. Yes, it's a strange time.
Whereabouts are you in the country?
I'm in Milton Keynes.
Yeah.
Oh, that famous railway place.
Yes, it is indeed. Yes, becoming more so. Yeah.
Becoming more so, yes. So tell us about what you do at Hitachi, Barry.
Okay, so I'm head of business development, and I'm responsible primarily for UK rolling stock sales.
And how is that at the moment?
Like I said, it is strange, and probably fair to say it's unprecedented times. We are primarily working from home, as are our customer contacts and our other stakeholders, and we are trying to keep things moving, keep the projects going that were started before the lockdown, and try and start new lines for improving sales in the future.
So what sort of things are you working on at the moment? How is that impacting on your business?
Okay, so if I look at Hitachi Rail as a whole, I mean, our number one priority being the safety of our people who are working at the moment. And so there's been a lot of effort put into how to continue maintenance operations to enable the operation of those services that are deemed essential in the country at the moment. And obviously our secondary objective is to try and help our customers and partners to keep business going in the background, such that whenever a recovery does happen, we're all able to kind of move quickly into taking advantage of that. So it's mainly about trying to progress business development and bid work and customer support when all of us are sat in our kitchens, in our lounges, in our offices, very remote from each other. And so that is a challenge to all of us at the moment.
So I've kind of got two questions following on from that, because I guess the first one is because you're remote from your team, and a lot of the conversations we've had so far have been with startups and SMEs who've very quickly adapted to this new way of working because they work in this way a lot. But I detected in your voice a bit of loneliness there at the remoteness of it.
When you are, let's say, when you're self-isolated with your family, it's generally not loneliness, but you are remote from your teams. You're remote from those people who you would normally interact with either on a daily basis or on a regular basis. And I think it is for people that are used to working in an office, or used to going and visiting their clients, are used to actually attending events. It is strange to be doing everything down a phone line and through a computer screen.
So what new methods are you using to make sure that you stay in touch with your team and your customers then?
So I wouldn't say there's necessarily any new methods, but certainly the social media is getting a hammering. You know, we have WhatsApp groups, we do Skype calls, we do Zoom calls like the one that we're on at the moment. And I think it is about establishing a routine for those, such that people do get into an idea that these things are going to happen fairly regularly. And I mean, dare I say, it gives them something to look forward to as a break from just doing the normal phone and Skype.
Yeah,
can I? Sorry, it was related to you. Obviously, I think working in an open plan office usually. So, how are you being affected by the lack or sort of overhearing the buzz of what's going on around the company?
Yes, of course, you do not have that. That's just completely absent now. So to try and find out what's happening on, you do then rely on having direct conversations with people or having group conversations and just trying to share ideas. say through WhatsApp, through Skype calls, through Zoom calls. We've learned to put these things into our diaries to try and stay in touch, both on a formal and an informal basis with our teams.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've heard that people are starting to even getting fed up with too many video conferencing calls now. Have you reached video conferencing fatigue yet?
It is interesting because I've heard the same as well. And when your diary has changed to being one of continuous phone calls that are booked in, continuous Skype calls, with video, continual invites to various webinars and I can see how people do get fatigued with that. From my own point of view, this is the only way of keeping in touch with people and perhaps the only way of keeping business going at the moment. So it's a necessary means to an end. But I can certainly see how people are getting fed up of it. And maybe ask me that question again 12 weeks into a lock-in. It might come back with a different answer.
And I was going to ask in the let's say medium longer term, is one of the questions you normally ask is about the company's challenges and their sales pipeline, but obviously for a big fleet of trains, have you learned anything about your fleets through this?
Well, I think that's a very interesting question, that because of course we do talk about when things get back to normal and what will be the new normal, and of course at the moment nobody really knows what that's going to be, how long it's going to take. But to try and answer your question on what the effect has been, I mean, the maintenance activities, of course, are largely driven by train availability and train mileage. And because of the drastic reduction in train services, that has obviously been affected. So whilst we have put a lot of effort into maintaining our maintenance operations and maintaining them in a way that is safe and complies with the government guidelines, that obviously does have an effect on the let's say the rate at which you can do the work, and certainly the methods in which you do it. So if you were trying to scale that back up again to what has traditionally been a full fleet operation, that is in itself going to be quite difficult. So if you're looking at sort of a lot of the effort that's going on at the moment, it is about working practices. It's about how sites are laid out. It's even about how open plan offices are laid out, because if we are in for a longer term spell of social distancing, or if this does change, the way that working practices, those things are going to have to adapt. And so, I think there is quite a lot of change coming on that way, which people are having to work out at the same time as trying to keep the basic operation running. So that's certainly a challenge for our maintenance staff and for our organisation.
Because that comes back to when I said I had two questions earlier. My other one was about because you work in new sales, and I was wondering specifically, how is that affecting your working practices? I mean, not just at the depots, but also in your production area in Newton Aycliffe, because presumably you have to have social distancing for manufacturing, and that's really difficult, presumably.
Well, it means a complete review of all your working practices. It means, it does mean a review of layouts, and that's both working layouts and the kind of the more amenity block type layouts as well. And again, that activity is taking place in the background. Our factory at Newton Aycliffe is currently on standby. But as soon as we are able to, and as soon as it is safe to do so, and as soon as some of the government restrictions are lifted, we would want to be restarting production there. But we will have to do it in a way that is safe, and that again is going to be a challenge for everybody.
So essentially, you're only concentrating on maintenance of train fleets that are in operation at the moment, and you're not doing any manufacturing at all.
So the manufacturing organisation is on standby, but it is ready to be brought back into operation as soon as possible. I mean, if we look around the world, of course, I mean, this is part of the unprecedented nature of what we're dealing with. Is it does deal, it is global, it affects everybody, and we've got our staff in the wider Hitachi group in China are now going back to work. And I saw a figure the other day where 95% of them are now back at work in China. And so production is ramped up. But the lesson that's been learned there is that the methods and if you want, some of the locations and the amenities are now very, they're different to how they were. And we would expect that to come across, come across over here. I think in the interests of not only keeping new train deliveries going, but keeping our business going, we have to find a way to be able to restart production and to restart the acceptance of trains and to restart that kind of fleet replacement that's already in progress.
And I guess that is a big challenge, because we've all seen in the press the last couple of days that everybody's worried about what's the exit strategy from isolation, because we've effectively got to mobilize the whole country again, and we don't know when that date is yet. So presumably it becomes more problematic the longer it goes on.
So yeah, absolutely. I mean, we don't know when, we don't know how. I think the optimists will say it will happen, and we will be relaxing some of the restrictions, and we will be returning to work, and we will be regaining some of those activities that we've lost over the last few weeks. But nobody knows for sure how it's going to be done. And for example, if we have people who are working in a location like a factory or like an office, is there going to be any testing regime put in place to kind of differentiate between those people who have or who have not had this particular virus? And that again would be quite a big change to the way that we work, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So I think that whole concept of like an immunity certificate is really interesting in terms of allowing people to get back to work, because given that we've pretty much probably tanked our economy over this, or the worldwide economy is tanked, how is that going to, are we creating a two-class system of people that have had the virus and those that haven't had it, so can go back to work until we've got an effective testing or vaccine against it?
Very, very good question, John. I wouldn't attempt to try and answer it because we don't know, do we? We don't know. But of course, if you are an employer, then these questions will be something that you'll have to face in the future.
And whose responsibility is it?
How do you
is it
keep
the
your staff
employer
safe?
or is it the government? Yeah, that's it. Because is it your responsibility as an employer, or is it the government's responsibility to provide the facilities?
Again, I think I wouldn't try to double guess some of the policy there, but one thing's for sure, is in terms of workplace safety, in terms of the safety and well-being of your staff, it's quite clearly the employer who has the primary responsibility. And I can't see that changing.
Right.
I've got just one final question. I don't know whether Liam's got more questions, but I've just got one more, because I think that obviously uncertainty is a big problem, and we just have to accept the fact that it's uncertain. But presumably Hitachi is in a really good place because it can learn from China.
As a global company, you can learn from everywhere. Yeah, I mean, I know the people I deal with regularly. They're people in Japan, people in Italy, people in the UK, and these are all hotspots. Global hotspots in this. And so, yes, we are learning all the time. But I think we're also learning that different countries are approaching this in different ways. And so, what is, let's say, what would be acceptable in China and Japan and Italy and the UK are not going to be not the same thing. And so as global companies, you have to learn to adapt to different things in different places. And I think if we look at what will happen, or what may happen in the future, is that as we look to resume sort of more of our sort of normal business activities, there will be differences between regions, differences between companies, differences between countries that we are just going to have to adopt and get used to. And that in itself, is going to create a challenge for companies that are trying to work on an international basis.
So do you think that is good or bad? Do you think the future is good or bad?
Oh, the future is always good. No, the future is always good. Yeah,
And that's the last question of what's the positive you can see coming.
So again, if I look at sort of my particular area, I mean, in UK Rail is you know the ridership is now very low, services very low. So the I guess if you want the opportunity is in as services build because demand is returning, then I think you can bet it will be, there will be differences to what were previously assumed. And so I think we have to look at how that demand is returning, whether any of the changes that we're all experiencing at the moment have some permanence. Is that our working practices, our travel patterns going to change permanently as a result of this? I think you can be sure they will change, but how they change permanently, and then how does that then affect investment plans? Because we were looking at a long-term plan for UK rail industry that was largely dependent on government policy, largely dependent on passenger franchising, driven by increasing demand, driven by an increasing number of services and increased capacity, increased investment, and that will change. And I think we just have to be alert to how quickly those changes are happening and where they're happening. Fundamentally, I think we have seen in other sort of similar crises in the past is that what happens is it accelerates the changes that were already there. So in terms of the optimism, one of the things that I would hope it accelerates is the whole kind of environmental and decarbonisation direction that transport needs to head in if we are to head off an environmental crisis. I hope that those activities accelerate. Also, if you look at the fact that those customer services that are enabled by the internet, people, internet connected devices, it's certainly been a trend, but a crisis like this may well accelerate that. And so I think if we look at the positives that come out of it is, there'll be an appetite for investment, there'll be an appetite for renewal, and that will, I think, will, if you want, create opportunity for us and similar companies.
Brilliant.
Because I guess one of the things just on that conclusion is that some of this stuff will be about making us more resilient, not just about what the opportunities are, so that because if this is something that continues long term, some of it will have to become more normal, and we'll have to have more resilience in the system than we currently have in order to continue to make sure that people have meaningful jobs and income. And that,
I think it is. It's yes. That's the question of how the economy changes, where people get their income from, how they get their income, how they spend it. Yes, I mean they're kind of fundamental, big macro questions, aren't they? What the impact will be on, say, rail vehicles and on rail services. There will be an impact, and I think we just have to be mindful of the fact that things will be different. And that we have to be flexible, and we have to be willing to meet that change demand,
and be more agile.
It's a great word, isn't it? Yes, you do. I think you need to be adaptable. Yeah. I mean, I was talking to one of my colleagues earlier, and we were saying actually at the moment, because there is so much uncertainty, what we can offer to do at the moment is be part of the debate. What will the exit look like? What will our future opportunities look like? And how will those come about? And I think having been part of that debate, then actually you've then got to be willing afterwards then to make the changes necessary to just get on and do what needs doing. And that applies to us, it applies to other companies in the sector, and I guess it applies to the wider economy.
Now, that is a great message to leave with in terms of just get on and do it. Thank you for joining us today, Barrie.
Well, thank you very much, Joanna. And Liam, I hope you get well soon.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.